Cuba, my little friends. It's time for another fact-filled factatorium episode of the program that we're listening to, that you're listening to. I'm listening to myself say it as I do it. So we're all having this experience together, and that's the fucking majesty, the beautifulness of the universe, kids, is we're all just traveling through space and time together on this big rock hurtling around an explosion, a thermonuclear explosion in outer space that's so big it has its own gravity and we're trapped in it. And it's shooting across the cosmos. And that's us. And that's this show. This show is part of the documentation of our journey through this expanse. Children, doesn't matter. I call myself Uncle. We don't do titles or names on this show, kids. It's a fun time thinking for yourself type show, not a fucking harsh do what we say show. That's fucking some other asshole show, not mine. My show's a freewheeling, expressive. Kids, today on this episode, on this fucking amazing episode where we full of insights. Today, kids, I want to talk to you about a special friend of mine. He comes from a land far, far away, and he came here to do a little good for people. His name's Superman. We're looking up at the big board, and the big board says today's topic is Superman. Who is? You kids know who Superman is. Everybody knows who Superman is. He's famous. He's a rock star. He walked on the moon. He discovered pandemonium. None of these things are true. Children, Superman is a fictional superhero. He was created way back in 1938. That means he'll be 100 years old in 18 years. Does that make sense? Shut up. So, the point is, Superman. What's a fictional character? You kids like thinking about fictional characters? You kids love fictional characters, man. Everybody loves fictional characters. Whether they're gods or heroes or the way that we view things that happen in history, pretty much everything the human mind interacts with is a fiction in some form or another. There's non-fiction and then there's fiction. Non-fiction is stuff that happened, and fiction is just ideas, ideological constructs, and narratives about things which never twere. And Superman's one of those things. He never existed. He's not a real guy. There's movies, but they're not really him. They're actors pretending to be him. If you see Superman, be warned, it's probably not him. He's probably not a guy you're ever going to see or interact with. Superman was created by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster. I felt obliged to say that. That's it. That's all I have to say about they seem like nice guys. You know, they used to do these little this is a historical moment in Canada, and there'd be a little film reenactment thing of a thing that happened in Canada, because one of the guys that created Superman was a Canadian. So Canadians took some pride in the fact of like, hey, one of our guys created Superman, even though Superman is pretty synonymous with the USA. That's all just a question of marketing, though, you know. Fucking truth, justice, and the American way. That's one of the fucking taglines they attach to Superman, like his cape. They also attached a cape to Superman, and he flies around fucking wherever he feels like, fucking doing whatever he feels like all the time. And one of the things we're really lucky with Superman is he likes doing good things. He's a good guy who likes doing good things, and part of his origin is they like to say that, you know, he was raised proper by good folk, and those good folk put good values into him, and them values they carry on into the rest of his life, and he tries to do good. You kids try to do good? Man, I heard this story once about, like, it was a guy, he was like a blacksmith. And he was working on a wagon, and he was doing a part of the wagon that nobody would see. It went on the undercarriage of the wagon, and this kid who was learning from him, he was like, why are you working so hard? Like, nobody's gonna see that part, nobody's gonna care about it. And he's like, yeah, but I'm gonna know, and if I half-ass it, if I don't do a good job, then I'm always going to know it. And every time this wagon goes past me, I'm going to remember that I half-assed it and I didn't do a good job. And that's part of the reason why you should always do a good job, no matter what the job is and no matter how much people appreciate it. And in the context of that story, it went on to explain how those were the kind of simple, folksy, good lessons that he taught to that boy I mentioned in the story, who later grew up to be a king. And they were like, oh, and he was like a super wise and a fair ruler because he was taught all those good things. That was in a series of books called The Belgareth by David Eddings. I just randomly remembered that, and it sidelined this entire fucking episode. So fucking buckle your butts into the future, kids, because that's what happens in the future, man. You don't know what things are gonna be. We thought we'd know, but everything is so surreal, man. It's like we thought things were chaotic in the 90s with like MTV and shit like that, but like fucking today, man, fucking like weird fucking like viral videos that people make with their phones and put up online, all this shit, man. Like it's just like fucking like bam, the fucking future is here. It's happening right now, man. It's happening all the fucking time, and it's not like the past. Superman, he's a guy from the past, you know. Like I say, he's from the year 1938, and now it's the year 2020, and people find themselves wondering, what are you up to, Superman? What are you doing? You're a super powerful guy who just wants to help people. How do we tell cool stories about that? And fucking, I don't know. I got this fucking theory, man. In the movies, they made some Superman movies recently. Superman's always a nice guy who's always trying to help people. But the recent movies, he's like way more removed and like fucking, I don't know if I should involve myself. And I was like, man, this feels like the movie companies. Superman at his core is kind of a socialist character. He's like, man, can't we all just share and get along and be kind to one another and like fucking all contribute and help one another out? He doesn't ask for money when he helps people. He just helps people because he has the ability to help. And I feel like the company that owns him now, that are putting out the movies and comic books, they're like, we're not putting out socialist propaganda. We're not putting out movies. We're not spending $1 billion to promote some feel-good, hippie bullshit, anti-capitalist fucking nonsense. We want a story where fucking Superman knows that some people are just kind of more special than others, and fucking you can't fuck with the system, man, because the invisible hand of capitalism will always protect everybody. So that's my conspiracy theory on Superman is that his capitalist owners won't allow him to be the socialist icon that he is meant to be. That's Superman. That's fucking, he's trapped, man. He's trapped by that. Because he is a fictional character, man. He can't speak out. Can't make his own decisions. He can only do what we tell him to do. What the writers and artists and the movie makers and fucking radio plays and fucking all sorts of, he's existed in all kinds of things, man. There's Superman cereal boxes and fucking, he'll punch you in the fucking face, man. He doesn't even fucking care. Nah, he's a nice guy. He'll punch you in the face if you're an asshole, so don't be an asshole. Anyways, kids, this has been this week's episode, or this year's episode, whatever the fucking time frame we're working on, of my show, the Uncle fucking Bloody Blah Drinking Tea Show. So thank you so much for listening, and I hope you learned something about my buddy Superman. Because I'm very tired now, and I think it's time that I get to go home. So fuck all y'all, I'm gonna fuck out of here. Later, losers.
Oh yeah, that's all she wrote.